I would like to talk about things which have started my wake-up process. In 2009, I was writing my engineering thesis. Well, actually, we were doing it in pairs, and my last semester was very overwhelming, so I wasn't up to date with everything, and actually my topic for the thesis was selected for me, and I have just heard about it well, just before I had time to start writing something about it. And it's funny because the topic was evolutionary algorithms. So I figured that it might be a good idea to compare Darwinian evolution and evolutionary algorithms and write something about it. And in order to do so, I have read parts of the book on the origin of the species. And I was hoping to read the whole thing in order to figure out what might be wrong with the evolution, because it seemed quite logical to me. But this quest has to wait for some better time.
You think me mad. I can see it by the look in your eyes. You think my story is impossible. Perhaps I am mad. Who would not be driven mad by horrors such as I have been? But I assure you, every word is true.
My next step happened a few years later. I had a habit of reading the latest news from Ars Technica, and one of the stories was about the genome of Neanderthal. And it really got me thinking, because even though the evolution seemed a bit reasonable to me, I always was very dismissive about it, especially when it was about human evolution. I always thought that all the evidence we've got about it could be attributed to the forgeries, extinct species of apes which were unrelated to us, and some ancient people with skull deformations. So this really struck me, this information that we have a DNA of an extinct hominin. And well, the DNA was really a tangible proof that human evolution could actually be a thing. And I thought for a second, well, maybe this means that what I believed all my life was wrong. This was really a tough spot for me, and I had to face it. But, well, I was thinking, okay, this is just one proof. Well, to be fair, I felt that my faith was shattered, but just for a moment. Then my cognitive dissonance kicked in, and I was thinking, well, this is something big. I need to go back to it and think about it some more. But then I thought, okay, but I have heard about so much evidence from the Bible and why it's true. I need to wait to have some more evidence to back some alternative point of view before changing everything in my life. So I have decided that I will keep on reading the scientific news from Ars Technica. But what really happened is just I have put my doubts back to the back of my head, and soon I wasn't even thinking about them. I guess the next thing was dinosaurs. Well, I remember that in Genesis chapter 1 verse 30 it states that all the animals were supposed to eat plants. So there should be no carnivores back then. And it was also supposed to happen after humans were created. So this puts some constraints on the story. But we have some solid proofs that also dinosaurs lived on Earth in some distant past, and that they went extinct but also we have some proofs that they were really carnivores. So trying to put all of these facts together, we're getting some contradiction, and it shows that the Bible must be wrong. And that was my thinking. And the funny thing about it is that even I have shared it with some friends. It was just right after I was appointed an elder, but I was not ready to actually go further with it. And I was even not ready to break free from my cognitive dissonance. On top of that, I was still thinking that there are some good reasons to believe in God. I remember watching one documentary showing a scientific expedition which has found the Ark of Noah. This gave some credibility to the Bible story about the flood. I didn't knew that this documentary was a fake, but still, there were things about the story which seemed strange to me. For example, I was thinking that modern biology explains why some fish can live only in salty waters of the seas and oceans, while others can live only in fresh water, like rivers and lakes. But the ancient people might have not known it. So there's no explanation in the Bible how did fish survive the flood.
Perhaps blue is nothing more than a shade of grey to you. Perhaps everyone in this world sees nothing but shades of grey. Don't you see, Hugh? This is why we're here.
So it turned out that when reading the Bible I was finding holes in it. I've already mentioned things like carnivores in the Garden of Eden and some issues with the flood. But the more I read it, the more holes I was seeing in it. There were some discrepancies in the Gospels, like whether or not was Judah participating in the Last Supper.
Behold, child, you are risen from the dust, and you walk in my garden. Hear now my voice, and know that I am your maker, and I am called Elohim. Seek me in my temple, if you are worthy.
I was also paying special attention to the miracles. With some of them, I just had a feeling that someone who described them had no idea about physics. Like when the sun was standing still during Joshua's battle. Just come on, it would be far easier to just magically kill all the Canaanites than stopping the earth from rotating without killing almost all of the life forms. You may say that the Earth didn't have to stop immediately, but even with gradual changes, there was not enough time available to make this smooth enough to be safe. And it would be even harder in case of the sign given for Hezekiah, when the Earth had to spin backwards. There was just no time for gradual changes in that case.
All across this land I have created trials for you to overcome, and within each I have hidden a sigil. It is your purpose to seek these sigils, for thus you will serve the generations to come and attain eternal life.
Another thing that bothered me were the wars waged by the Israelites, the ones which were supposedly commanded by him, because there were always casualties on both sides, and I was asking myself, why did Israelites taking part in it had to die? Well, they were following God's orders, so it didn't make sense to me that some of them were being killed. And in other stories, well, God was supposed to give people a chance to listen to his warning, like firstborns in Egypt. And at first I thought that, well, maybe they had their chance, but when I thought about it some more, I realized that actually it was not them who could save themselves. They had to rely on their family to, well, proceed according to the instructions.
The shapes you are collecting are not mere toys. They are the sigils of our name. Each brings you closer to eternity.
So how can it be considered justice when the life of a person depends on other people's action? Also, a lot of the stories in the Bible were promoting the idea that the earth was flat, like the tree from the Nebuchadnezzar's dream. There were a lot of things I was not aware about the Bible because I was using New World Translation.
Well done, child. Only one more sigil is needed.
But even switching from Polish to English edition of this Bible, I was able to find some strange verses, like Psalm 148 verse 4, were in English version. I have for the first time learned that the Bible mentions waters above heavens. It is proof that the ancients had really some strange ideas about our world. Sometimes, when reading the Bible, I had a feeling that other gods mentioned it were as real to their writers as was Jehovah for them.
My temple awaits you, child. Go forth.
And every time I found such a thing, I was thinking that this is just a tiny detail. And I was aware of it, but I was kind of dismissive about them. I regret I wasn't making notes about such things, because it might have soon happened that I would realize that these minor things, these details, are just so common that they need to be addressed, that I need to think about them. So with all of this, well, I was ready to be awakened. I just needed a small push which would open my eyes.